Over the top, under the radar. Over the top, 1987. Let's talk about Over the Top, 1987, on why I think this is one of the most underrated sports movies in the history of cinema. The music. Yes, the music in Over the Top, 1987. There were so many 1980s, 80s tracks here and it just goes so good with the movie. It's so emotional. You know, music makes a movie, and I'm telling you that right now. It happens in Over the Top. Don't know why this is getting talked about as one of the greatest soundtracks probably of all time in a movie. The music is so, you can vibe with it, you can feel it. I can hear it in my head, a couple of these tunes. You remember these tunes after the movie and want to be listening to them. That's how good the movie is. But then again, it's just for this movie, it feels like these music tunes might be. I'll be realistic. The real reviewer is. It feels like just for this movie, it works. The scenes that they put this music in at the right times, the right moments. Stallone has something about music, or whoever was composing this film. I believe it was Giorgio Moroder. I can't believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, but a well-known compositionist here. But Stallone, put in the film. He wrote some of the screenplay, so I will give a credit to everyone involved. But wow, what an underrated music movie soundtrack. The kid actor here, not so much liked. I saw this movie back in 1980, probably in the early 90s. Saw this movie in the early 90s, and on VHS, watched it over and over, and watched it ever since then. And of course, it's a free movie. It's out there. It's been known. It's an older movie. But this kid in the movie that plays Stallone's son, I never really liked him, and I didn't like him. You're not supposed to like him, but it's his acting chops. It's his facial expressions. I don't think he fits the role perfectly. That's the problem. I think they could have done way better with a better child actor at the time, but I do like him in some of the scenes. He fits. I know Stallone was probably, or someone who's casting the film is looking for someone certain to play this child role, and I just don't think he fits it all the way. My heart doesn't go fully out to him, but in the end, it does make sense, and you do root for the kid. So I'm not saying it's a bad choice completely. It just could have been a perfect choice if they would have thought it through further. Underrated sports movie of all time. That's right, I said it before, I'll say it again. This is one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated sports movie of all time. You have arm wrestling brought to another degree here, fantasized to extreme degree. I just can't believe this. When I first saw this movie, I couldn't believe they actually did arm wrestling like this, and of course they don't. It's not this entertaining and charismatic. I mean, they have such different characters here in the film, but we'll cover that. But when it comes to just, being a sports movie, arm wrestling, you don't think it's a real sport, but it is, because this movie makes you believe that. And Over the Top is so successful in being a sports movie. Extremely entertaining, especially the move here. Stallone probably thought of this because he thinks of these things. Just like in Rocky, the punches, everyone wants to duplicate those things. A Rocky performance, he pulls a Rocky performance in Over the Top with this move, with the thumb move and the four fingers, and I love duplicating that after this film, because you see it happen on screen at the end and in the beginning, and he pulls it off, I think, twice or three times, because he shows his son once. So it's really a cool move. Never knew about it. You pull that shit out, you might win a match or two. I remember doing that with my brother and winning a match or two. So it was really cool to do it after the movie. It's the move. It's a really entertaining film. The lights, the camera, the action, the story, they move it along. I thought they would move it along a little bit more. If they chopped and edited this film better, I would have loved it a lot more. Great characters. I want to, you got John Grizzly, you got Bull Hurley. These are arm wrestlers Bull Hurley here. Look at these names I'm naming you. So you have people that are drinking gasoline or eating cigars and, hyped up on the roids and just ready to go. I like that shit. There's so much testosterone, there's so much sweat, there's so much anger, there's so much hype. Everyone has their own way of doing things and getting hyped, and has their own charismatic character. And I love that about this movie. I mean, just great character work here. Great way to do it. You might say it's stereotypical and it's been boring and been done before, but it's just, or done in a plain, old-fashioned way. But you gotta give credit because there's entertaining characters. Stallone in top form. I want to see Stallone Lincoln Hawk here. Hawks. He is at top form. I've never seen Stallone like this since Rocky, or ever since. I love Over the Top. It feels like he was such into the part. Like he took his heart and soul into it. Just like with everything in this movie and those arm wrestling matches, you really root for him. And it's just so good to see him overcome the odds and win the championship over Bull Hurley. What a vendetta there. And this guy Bull Hurley is so scary. And it feels like a Rocky versus Goliath. Rocky 4 type shit. Before that, it's just so good. what a movie that you know, it could do that to you. Stallone has a lot to do, I think, with the success for sure. I don't know what happened in the 80s and you know why did this movie lost money. I believe it was like $23 million budget and only come out with $16 million at the box office. What the fuck? That's why I say underrated. You know, the critics probably knocked the shit out of this film, but the music is there. You do have a great story, and like I said, Stallone, top form Sylvester. Cheesy. A lot of people say cheesy. A lot of reviews out there are cheesy for the film. 1980s film. What do you expect from an 80s film, though? Gotta have great music. It does, and it has some great action, and it's arm wrestling. There's no guns, there's no gore, there's no blood. It's just, that's what is so entertaining about the film. And a lot of sports movies bring that. You know, Last Boy Scout, The Program. A lot of other movies do that, or it's a comedy film with sports. So, you know, this movie takes it to another level, especially when you're doing arm wrestling that hasn't been known, especially in the late 80s. More so known now, but you know, but not as blown up. But man, in the late 80s, wow, just to do that with arm wrestling, a movie like this, so good way to do it. I'm telling you, cheesy. Yeah, some of the stuff is cheesy, no doubt about it. But here's the thing about cheesy. Sometimes cheesy can be classic. Sometimes cheesy can be charismatic, and it can be other things as well as cheesy. But you know, that's what they're saying in the late 80s, because I believe this was ahead of its time. This movie had to be ahead of its time. That's why people couldn't grasp it. The message of the movie, let's cover that final fact I want to cover about Over the Top 1987 is starring Sylvester Stallone, would be the message of the movie. It gives life to the film, and it gives life to us. You know, that even though you fuck up or you mess up, you can still be redeemed and have a second chance. And that's what happens with Lincoln Hawks and his son and everyone involved in the film. I love at the end when the grandfather here sees them embracing, because Hawks just won. You know, beat Bull Hurley, took him down, man, with the move. And whew, a lot of the sounds too are animalistic. Like, I wanted to cover that. The sounds in the film, grade A shit, top-notch soundtrack and top-edge sound effects. This shit is like animalistic. I love it. Should be how it is. A movie has never done it like this, over the top. Again, like arm wrestling or sports for that fact. So I want to cover that as well. The message of the movie, it has a great message that love conquers all. That's the bottom line. You can't keep blood is thicker than water, and the grandfather realizes that and let Hawks have his son and walk away. So that is Over the Top, Under the Radar.